Let's begin our meeting. Before we begin, I want to remind committee members and members of the public to follow the code of conduct. It includes commenting on the specific agenda item only and addressing the full body. Public speakers will not engage in a conversation with chair, members of the committee, or staff. All members of the committee, staff, and public are expected to refrain from abusive language. Failure to comply with the code of conduct, which will disturb, disrupt, or impede the orderly conduct of this meeting, will result in removal from the meeting. So we'll now call the meeting to order and start with roll call.
Candelas? Here. Ortiz?
Present.
Foley?
Here.
Davis?
Here.
Cohen?
Here.
All present. Thank you.
Thank you. So the first item we have today is a consent calendar. Item C, there's 2 items on the consent calendar, and we'll start with speakers from the public if there are any.
Blair Beekman?
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks for the meeting today. Happy Monday, September 11th. Happy as it can be. I want to comment that thank you for the annual Clean Energy Commission report and for the Airport Commission annual report. These were 2 really good commissions, San Jose. Guess the community energy is to be modern itself and become kind of a clean stability community energy thing as well. Good at that. That's really what actually, and I hope you just talked about these issues. Guess in the last few months of meeting time. You're trying to reorganize yourself to give the energy even more power to manage yourself, to decision making.
We lost Blair. We're going to move on to Paul Soto. Paul, your microphone is muted.
Yeah, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. I'm just trying to pull up on the computer. I don't have the benefit of having resources, so please bear with me. Okay, is that one integrated waste? No, I'll pass. This isn't the item that I want. That's on the next one. Okay, thank you.
Back to the committee.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved. Approval of the consent.
Second.
All right, we're going to vote on the consent calendar. And the motion carries 5-0. So that brings us to first report to committee, item D1. This is the City Infrastructure Strategy Quarterly Status Report. And we're going to turn that over to Kip.
Good afternoon, Kip Harkness, Deputy City Manager. I'll just lightly talk about the infrastructure strategy and then hand it over to Erica and Zach, who will give the bulk of the presentation. So as a reminder, the committee has approved, and it'll actually be going to council on the 19th, a city infrastructure strategy for this fiscal year, which was also reflected in the approved budget. You identified 5 objectives that we are focusing on, and below them 16 work streams which support those objectives. These are the change initiatives, the things that we are doing differently, more, and hopefully better of, and then they all rest on top of the ongoing core services, the day-to-day operations and maintenance work of running the utilities and the infrastructure, and all of the work of public works, environmental services, community energy, and the other departments that contribute from Department of Transportation to airport. So what we'll do today is we'll highlight some progress in a couple of these, and we'll also talk through how we'll be reporting out and keeping track of progress across all 16 using objectives as measured by key results. So I'm going to actually just turn it over to Erica at this point to talk us through this last quarter.
Thank you, Kip. Erica Graffo, Lead Resilience Strategist with the City Manager's Office. Good afternoon, committee members and members of the public. As Kip mentioned, for today's presentation, we'll start with just a couple high-level developments across city infrastructure world, and then we'll dig into a couple of the work streams themselves. So first, some exciting news. The city was recently awarded a $648,000 adaptation planning grant, courtesy of the California Governor's Office of Planning and Research. The adaptation planning grant will focus on critical infrastructure needs with an emphasis on energy, water, and electrified transportation, and a special focus on incorporating the needs of vulnerable communities. Big thank you to Valley Water as our co-applicant and Spur, who is our CBO partner. We're currently working on putting the RFP together, and we hope to have that out on the street before the end of the year, the calendar year. And we have until January of 2026 to complete the work. So I know there's a lot of plans out there, so I thought I'd put this in context. The adaptation plan, which we're calling Climate Ready, is working hand in hand with Climate Smart, which you guys should all be familiar with. Climate Smart is the city's climate action plan, so this would be the climate adaptation plan, and we really hope that these two work hand in hand together. Where Climate Smart's focus is on mitigation, Climate Ready is really about preparing the city to adapt to the already changing climate. And just like Climate Smart, Climate Ready will build on the city's existing general plan so that all of these plans are interconnected and crosswalk easily between them. And of course, underpinning this work is our 3 guiding principles of equity, funding, and creating the team to support this work. We'll be coming back periodically to update the committee on our progress. Okay, switching gears to another quick update. This time, we're talking about stormwater. So first, a little bit of context. The city has 2 different collection systems. We have a sanitary sewer collection system, which treats sewage, and that flows to the regional wastewater facility through over 2,000 miles of pipe before exiting to the bay, or sometimes returned as recycled water. The city has a separate system that treats rainwater. That's our storm sewer collection system. And from the rainwater, we remove trash and pollutants before it flows into our waterways, like Coyote Creek and the Guadalupe River. We also maintain 10 regional green stormwater infrastructure sites, and those treat stormwater, rainwater slightly differently. Those are through nature-based methods, which clean the water before it goes to our waterways. And then more generally, our municipal regional stormwater permit, or stormwater permit for short, regulates how clean that water has to be before it flows into the San Francisco Bay. You'll hear more about this later in today's agenda, but the part I wanted to highlight in this presentation is that those blue and green circles are going to start costing the city more, and so we are exploring strategies for funding this work. So in order to gauge public interest in bringing some sort of additional revenue, we surveyed likely voters in late August. Our polling consultant is still in the process of putting together those final tabulations, but we'll use these findings to decide what type of revenue measure we move forward with, what makes sense, as well as when it might come to voters, if at all. There's always option to delay. So our plan is to return to this committee hopefully in October with an update on where we stand and what our options might be for raising revenue. Okay, so back to our city infrastructure work streams. Before I hand it over to Zach, who's going to give us an update on one of them, I wanted to first explain how we're going to be coming back to this committee with our updates. So for each of the work streams that you saw on the previous slide, 16 work streams, we asked staff to set 90-day key results at the start of the quarter. Then at the end of the quarter, we asked staff to let us know how they did, if they completed it, if they completed what they set out to do at the beginning of the quarter. Because we don't have a T&E meeting in July or August, you're hearing about our in-progress Q1 key results at today's meeting, and then we'll just keep that 3-month cadence, and we'll return in December. And when we return in December, you'll see both the scored Q1 key results as well as the in-progress Q2 results. All of the key results for Q1, the in-progress ones, are listed in the memo, and you'll notice that much of the work in Q1 reflects the start of the new fiscal year. So we're just starting to ramp up on new positions and new funding, new contracts, things like that, so hiring new staff. So now I will turn it over to Zach. We're going to highlight 2 of our work streams today. And first we'll have Zach give us an update from clean energy, and then I'll turn it over to Kip to do an update on shoreline levy. Zach, the mic is yours.
Thanks, Erica. Good afternoon. Zach Strike, Assistant Director, Community Energy Department. So for this electric vehicle fleet and charging infrastructure, in April 2023, the California Air Resources Board approved rules requiring public fleets to buy zero-emission vehicles for at least half of new vehicle purchases across light, medium, and heavy duty, starting in 2024, and 100% as of 2027, so right around the corner. Local government fleets may, however, continue using their existing internal combustion engine vehicles for the full useful life. These regulations will obviously have significant impacts on the city. First, purchase budgets will need to be increased as upfront costs for new EV fleet vehicles can be as much as 2 to 3 times more expensive than comparable internal combustion vehicles. However, while upfront costs are higher, lower fuel costs and maintenance costs, as well as government subsidies when available, can lead to lifetime savings compared to internal combustion vehicles. There's also an emerging option to purchase so-called electric vehicles as a service, whereby buyers pay a fixed monthly fee for an electric vehicle for a specified number of miles per day and which is maintained by the provider. This could reduce the capital outlay required for both vehicles and charging stations for certain classes of EVs. Probably not fire trucks, though. That was a joke. Meanwhile, supply chain issues and high demand are reducing the availability of vehicles. This requires careful planning of purchases. Finally, more electric vehicles require installing more charging, both level 2 and fast charging, at city facilities or elsewhere. This will result in increased energy demand that will need to be managed to ensure the city's fleet isn't contributing to the evening electrical peak, when electricity prices are higher and there's less clean energy powering the grid. These challenges require the development of a fleet electrification master plan, which we will get working on very soon. Additionally, investing in charging at city facilities or elsewhere to meet fleet needs can serve a dual purpose of meeting public charging needs as well, including in so-called charging deserts. Next slide. So by the end of this quarter, staff will complete development of a roadmap of actions to be undertaken this fiscal year that will focus on 2 priorities. The first, building out the city's EV fleet and needed charging infrastructure. And second, adding EV charging infrastructure with affordable rates for public use in communities with low levels of charging infrastructure. Staff will also stand up a working team and establish roles and responsibilities, meeting cadence and timeline of deliverables specified in the roadmap.
Okay, now back to Kip.
Kip Harkness again, and I can't help but comment on the last item. One of the things that we realize as we're doing this work is just how swiftly these changes are coming to our electric vehicle fleet, and how still nascent and sometimes non-existent the technologies are for the electric vehicle fleet, especially for the larger, more complex vehicles. And so the good news in prioritizing this on our work stream is we've been able to bring the various departments together, because it requires not only an understanding of the fleet themselves, but electrical infrastructure, and a whole host of complexities around where we'll get the electricity, how we'll deliver the electricity, what are the various technology options. And so that's what led us to prioritize this development of a master plan, where we're going to have to be working with everybody from PG&E to making a determination on where are the technologies mature enough to place a bet and where do we need to wait. You'll be getting more detail on this coming back, but I think it's very important to realize that this is, with 2,800 approximately rolling stock vehicles in our fleet, this is going to be a very big deal, and it's going to come at us very fast. Similarly, on the public side, it was very clear that the piece that's missing, or potentially missing, is a question around equity. We know that the electrical infrastructure will be built out rapidly, but what will happen if the private sector is the only force doing it, and where will there be inequities in this access? So more to come on that, as we said. So to the piece that I'm supposed to be talking about, the shoreline levy is one of our, and sea level rise is one of our priorities. We have focused our effort on mitigating sea level rise, on adapting to sea level rise, on the construction of the shoreline levee, which is being built by Valley Water, the State Coastal Conservancy, and the Army Corps of Engineers. This 3.8 miles of FEMA-certified coastal levee will improve flood risk management for a very large part of the Alviso community, the regional wastewater facility land, the Silicon Valley Advanced Water Purification Center, and the future economic development land that's now currently on the regional wastewater facility. This will also allow, when fully implemented, about 2,900 acres of tidal marsh to be restored and improve recreation opportunities in and around the area. This phase of it is in 5 reaches. Reaches 1, 2, and 3 are fully funded and under construction. Reaches 4 and 5, which are in front of the regional wastewater facility, are the ones that we're currently in the process of being designed and figuring out how to fund. So the next slide has a number of the key results that we're looking for in the next quarter. To boil it down, we're really trying to make sure we understand what we're going to need out of the negotiations and the transactions with Valley Water, to make sure that we both do what we can to support the build out of this levee, and also make sure we take into account the very deep interests of the regional wastewater facility and our partner, the city of Santa Clara, in anything that happens on that land. The good news, which is prompting us to re-engage more seriously, is that we were successful supporting at the federal level a funding appropriation that goes to Valley Water and the Army Corps of $92 million, which breathes new life into reaches 4 and 5 and gives us the realistic opportunity of seeing those designed and completed in the near-term time frame, at least near-term in terms of large infrastructure projects. So the good news on this is that this will significantly address sea level rise issue in these areas. Exactly how much it will do, of course, will depend on how quickly the sea does rise, but it is a very, very important and necessary first step toward adapting to the reality that we're going to see sea level rise, primarily affecting us in North San Jose. And I think with that, I'm turning it back over to myself. That's it. And we're happy to take any questions, comment, feedback on either the presentation or the full report itself, which included the key results for all 16 of these work streams. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kip and Erica and the rest of the team. Let's go to public comment first.
Paul Soto?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. You didn't mention one time the evictions that are going to occur with this soft whatever you call it. I'm tired of you using euphemistic language and just like, well, if we just don't talk about it, we don't look at it, it's not going to exist. And then, oh, all of a sudden, half of my community is going to have to be evicted from those apartment complexes that are going to have to be reconstructed, and they're not going to be able to move back in. Okay, and this report did not address that, not one time. Okay, so that tells me everything I need to know about this government. Okay, you don't care about Mexicans, you don't care about Chicanos, because if you did, it's on this report. But you didn't address it not one time. All you talked about was electric vehicles. Now, I know that there's council members on this committee right now that are listening to my voice, and I demand that you say something. I'm not asking you. I'm demanding, and then I'm going to expect you to do something about it. And you need to go on record here and now about what you're going to do, homeboy, about this issue, about the evictions that are going to go on in our communities. This soft placement, whatever you guys are calling it, stop using euphemistic language. Now, George Carlin was expert at calling that out. So did Aldous Huxley and George Orwell. They talked about government using language in order to cover up their inhumanity and their complete apathetic indifference to the suffering that is going on in our communities. And you use language like that, like soft. There ain't nothing gonna be soft about it, homeboy. You guys gonna be, I wanna know what the council members from that community, the one that is gonna be most impacted by that, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, man? Because what are you gonna do? This is what you're gonna do. You're going to get millions of dollars to Somos Mayfair so that they can carry the bags of our elders outside of their apartments, to carry the bags of the children. That's what you're going to do. You're going to make Somos Mayfair richer, by helping them escort our elders and the vulnerable children that are going to be impacted.
Blair Beekman?
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. Some interesting words by Paul. Thank you. Thank you that Community Energy, Zach from Community Energy talked about issues. A quick final reminder that, we really have a chance for community energy to be a much more open, publicly accessible process in the future. And I'd hate for it to be just, whittled down to just a select few again, making decisions like the city manager about our future community energy. Good luck in accessibility with the future community energy. For items that Paul was talking about, I mean, we've been talking for a few months now. Rosalind Huey at public meeting times, Peter Ortiz asking questions as a good council person, about the future of retrofit things. And you've given some really good beginning answers. Paul has offered, why can't you just continue to be talking about those things and making it really clear in this sort of process what we can expect? The process. You completely ignore it, as Paul said, and we're left, scared and helpless in what exactly you're doing. Why not make it open? Why not make it accountable that you are actually working on it and making really good efforts that it will be 100%? I think you guys are at like maybe 65, 70, 75, 80. Why not go for that extra 20 and make it open and accountable so we're aware of it and we want to work that way and we want to do those things? You guys keep hiding stuff is what Paul's saying. And it's annoying. And it creates errors by doing that and mistakes. It allows for bad stuff to happen. So good luck with that, and good luck with accountability issues overall with the future of microgrid things. It's important we be accountable. Oh, and Bay things. You're talking about issues of Bay sea level rise. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
All right, Councilmember Ortiz.
All right, there we go. First, thank you, Chair. First, I want to thank staff for being attentive to funding opportunities, and really excited to see us be awarded a grant. And just given that money is hard to come by for a lot of these projects, I'm grateful for your leadership in securing those dollars. I wanted to ask what specific type of projects would we use these dollars for? Are these for like stormwater infrastructure? Could you share like an example?
You're referring to the adaptation planning grant or for the stormwater revenue?
The initial adaptation.
Oh, the adaptation
Yeah.
planning grant is it's money to create a plan
Oh, I
for
see,
how
strategy.
we're going to adapt to climate change. So
Oh,
it's
I
just
see.
for planning. Yeah.
Okay, and we're going to be releasing an RFP for.
That's correct. Yeah. So our plan is to put this out for bid very similarly to how we did Climate Smart. So we brought on a consultant to help us think through, the all of the different possibilities of how we might need to address our infrastructure.
Nice, thank you. And my next question is in regards to the electric vehicle and charging infrastructure. I wanted to ask, are we being mindful of tracking where this infrastructure is being developed or where it's not being developed at, and just being intentional with how we're placing these charging stations?
Yes, very much so, and that is a big piece of the work. First know what has gone in where, and try to understand what the private sector has already on the books to be coming, and then fill in the gaps, as Kip was saying, to make sure that there's equitable access throughout.
Mm-hmm. And I that's really extremely important. I think I'm the only one on this committee that doesn't have a green car. I have a Dodge Dart, but driving around my community, I don't see any sort of like charging infrastructure. There may be some there, right? But I don't see that in our parking lots and in our marketplaces. So I'm looking forward to making sure that there's equitable placement of these systems. And I know that we've talked a lot about Soft Story, and I'll follow up on that after the meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I don't see any other hands. I'm going to ask a couple of questions myself. First, following up on the EV for our fleet vehicles. I know there's a lot of other EV pieces in this overall work plan, but today we were focused on the fleet vehicles. I imagine we want our corporate yards, particularly our main yards, to have a lot of that charging because that's where most of the vehicles are parked. But we also need to be aware of the large geography of our city. So we're considering how vehicles will deploy to, for example, North San Jose and Alviso or down into Coyote Valley, and how we might need to distribute our charging stations as we build it out?
I'll go first. And Kip, yeah, jump in, please. Yes, we have telematics data on where the vehicles go every day, and so we're in the process of utilizing that and examining it. And yes, exactly, stationing or intending to station charging where those vehicles do work and where we know more work is going to be coming. I'll also just call out that yes, the the service yards today. Ideally, in a perfect world, we would put all the charging there. There are limitations on the grid capacity, and so we're trying to take an even sort of bigger approach, which is where is the grid capacity, and maybe we need to acquire real estate there and sort of get out of, just be a little bit more flexible and take advantage of what's possible today, as opposed to waiting for 3-5 years for utility to commit that, complete an upgrade and or make it much more expensive to do so.
I think the yes and I would have to that is we're also trying to understand what are some of the best practices from fleet management, because a lot of this, there's a lot of data component about when do you want to charge, both for the least inconvenience to the person driving it, but also for the best benefit of the grid, which would be midday for us, and also the way that people are sort of used to charging, of just going and filling up. It's going to be very different. So how do you? We're probably looking at some sort of fleet-wide piece of software that would help orchestrate and manage and organize when and where and how people were charging to optimize a whole host of variables, from getting the lowest cost electricity to the least amount of inconvenience to not overcrowding a certain facility, something that somebody just making an individual choice would never be able to figure out for themselves. So it's a whole new way of thinking about coming and going that is actually a lot more complicated than just filling it up.
Yeah, and I imagine technology will be changing too. I'm expecting some of the new technology in the future on electric vehicles to have swappable batteries. So you can have a battery rack of charged batteries. You can go in, swap out the battery, and just go back out on the road. That may be something for fleet vehicles that occurs, although I don't, I can't predict timelines for that.
Well, that goes directly to some of what we've been talking about as we shape the master plan. I think one of the things that we're going to be looking at as we do the master plan is there will be a series of decisions which I would call no regrets decisions. They just make sense. No matter what the technology changes are, we should do that. And the first phase of the master plan will really likely focus on those no regrets decisions, because I, like you, think the technology is going to be rapidly changing. So if we can pull a battery out and put it back in for a fire vehicle, let's say, that may completely change how we think about charging fire vehicles. So until those technologies exist, we may want to hold off making big bets on things that cement us into a decision that we don't want. Whereas with light-duty vehicles and medium-duty vehicles, increasingly the technology around that is pretty mature, pretty capable, and we understand that. So those early decisions that we think will be no regrets, we'll make those. But frankly, we should delay, and we may even want to think about how we influence the market and the technology development before we place a big bet on an unknown technology.
Right. So I imagine today we're not yet, a very small fraction of what we're buying today are electric vehicles for our fleet, or are we already buying some, or are none yet?
I believe we're buying a substantial amount, especially in the light-duty and passenger vehicles, and a lot of that is underway in terms of the basic charging infrastructure. It's the next level up where we really have to do a lot of planning and work.
The timeline says that next year we're supposed to have half of our purchases be electric vehicles. Is that something we think we're going to achieve? And what is the deadline? I mean, when they say 2024, do they mean the fiscal year, the next year? What is the deadline for that?
Excellent question, and I've gotten into what would be complete speculation on my part, so I'm going to take that as a good question to bring back.
Okay. And then,
Zach, you have the date on that?
I was only going to say that, just to clarify that, we will take it back, but what I think it means that in 2024, if we buy 2 vehicles in 2024, one of those needs to be electric. So not that the fleet needs to be 50%.
Right, no, I understand.
Okay.
It's about the purchase of new
Yep.
vehicles, I understand.
Yep.
But I still was curious about the timeline and how, we're buying some EVs now, and how close are we? I guess I'm curious to find out at some point what our progress is along that goal. And obviously, in 3 years later, 100% of all new purchases are supposed to be, although I wonder if some of the technologies will exist for certain kinds of vehicles to be able to do that, but we'll find out as we move forward. Back to the question about the grid capacity, is this something that we want to potentially work with, like LS Power, as they put in their new grid backbone and find locations along the new grid to put in like large-scale charging for these vehicles?
Yeah, I think we want to work with both LS Power and PG&E to understand how the distribution infrastructure will be built out, where they will have new substations, because again, rather than just assuming we should charge where we are, if electrical access is going to be one of the bottlenecks, it may make sense to use some facilities or some spaces that we don't think of as prime charging spaces now that will be ones in the future. So we've actually started to have that conversation with PG&E as a result of some of the other items that you all have directed us on, and we'll be working with them to think about where it would make sense to best build out future charging stations for the fleet, both with PG&E and with LS Power. Okay,
thank you. I also appreciate the discussion about the levy. Obviously, that's important to me and my district, but Alviso has a lot of important infrastructure. It's not just about Alviso, though, because the flood maps show about a mile or two penetration into North San Jose, where a lot of the tech companies and residential is as well. So it's not just about protecting Alviso. I just want to make sure that's clear. One last question, or comment and question. There's 51 deliverables, and obviously we just talked about 2 of them today. So I'm curious about how, and we'll find out, I guess, in 3 months, how you'll be presenting a scorecard that shows us how all 51 deliverables are going and how we keep up with that. So I don't know if there's a question in there now, but I'm curious about how we're going to be able to monitor that.
Yeah, and the scorecard will be a simple traffic light, a red, yellow, green, which will help us understand what's on track. Each of these teams has identified what we believe is a realistic goal within that time. So I'll say two things which are contradictory. One, we have a reasonable expectation that we'll have significant movement on all of those items and tending toward green. And two, we're trying not to make red or even yellow necessarily something that we penalize people for, because part of it is learning as we go. And so by bringing it forward on a quarterly basis rather than an annual basis, if we identify a red, that's often an opportunity for improvement. And so we'll be bringing that all back forward to you in a very, very open, candid, and direct fashion, and have the opportunity to dig into any of those items which are red or green, which are of interest to you in the next time around in December.
Okay, great, appreciate that. So I'll entertain a motion to accept the, unless there's other hands up, no other hands up. So I'll entertain a motion to accept the infrastructure report.
Move to accept.
All right, we've had a motion and a second, so let's vote. All right, motion carries 5-0. Now we're on to the second item, which is our audit on, what is it called? The Waste Management Enforcement Program. So Joe, take it away.
Good afternoon, Joe Royce, City Auditor. I'm here with Allison Pauley, Michael O'Connell, and Maria Valle from my office to present to you our audit Integrated Waste Management Enforcement Program, clarifying goals and performance expectations would improve enforcement coverage. Also in the box are Carrie Romanow and Valerie Osmond from the Environmental Services Department. The objective of this audit was to evaluate the Integrated Waste Management, or IWM's, enforcement team's service delivery. This team is charged with enforcing solid waste regulations in the municipal code, as well as conducting education outreach around state and local solid waste regulations. The IWM enforcement team enforces Muni Code and contractual requirements to resolve solid waste management issues. Typical cases include dangerous accumulation, improper set out of containers, illegal hauling, and other issues. In 2022, the team handled about 840 cases overall. The largest single category of cases was related to dangerous accumulation, an example of which is included in the slide. As described in Finding 1, they also conduct outreach and education of businesses and residents around solid waste regulations. As part of their process, the IWM inspection team conduct inspections of businesses or residents, primarily based on complaints they receive from the public, the city's garbage and recycling haulers, or other city staff. They conduct initial inspections of properties, and if they see a problem, will issue a warning notice to the business or property owner. They will then conduct a follow-up inspection, and if the issue has not been resolved, they can issue an administrative citation. In 2022, the team issued 429 warning notices and 41 administrative citations based on the 840 cases that they investigated. The team has 5 positions overall, 4 inspectors and a supervisor. We had 3 findings. The first finding is that ESD should clarify, the mission and workload expectations of the IWM enforcement team. In recent years, the responsibilities of the team has changed, and this has contributed to a lower workload and a need to clarify the expectations for inspectors' activities. There's been a decline in public complaints coming to this team, which has contributed to a lower workload, and work in other areas has declined, including shifting enforcement of illegal dumping to planning, building, and code enforcement. At the same time, new responsibilities such as outreach or enforcement related to new legislation or existing ordinances have been added to the team's responsibilities. Do note that in the first half of 2023, each inspector was conducting about 2.3 inspections per day on average, and though this is an improvement from 2022 or 2021, it is still below management's expectations. Current procedures state that inspectors should complete 3 inspections per day, and management has stated the goal they're working toward is 4 per day. In this finding, we have 3 recommendations to help focus and prioritize the work of the inspection team. First, clarify the mission and goals and create success metrics for the team, set performance expectations for inspectors, and monitor inspector performance. And lastly, update procedures to clarify expectations for inspector activities around illegal dumping and no service collection. Second finding is that proactive cases should focus on expanding coverage citywide. Although the enforcement team's workload is primarily complaint-driven, the team has a proactive program that encourages staff to identify and respond to dangerous accumulation or other solid waste violations they observe in the field. We found the enforcement team's approach for proactive cases could better augment the current complaint-driven system to expand coverage of solid waste enforcement citywide. Currently, IWM inspectors may only initiate proactive work if they observe a solid waste violation while they're out in the field. And as a result, proactive cases largely follow the same geographic trends as solid waste complaints. This results in the risk of underreported issues in other parts of the city. In our analysis, we noted that higher priority solid waste violations appeared to be related to multifamily or commercial properties. However, some parts of the city with high densities of such properties saw few proactive cases. So updated procedures around the team's proactive work would enable the team to better reach communities, particularly those that have underreported violations, and tailor outreach materials appropriately. So we had one recommendation to update procedures around proactive inspections and outreach. The third finding is that streamlining administrative tasks would give inspectors more time in the field. Administrative tasks related to cases such as data entry and identifying responsible parties can be made more efficient to free up inspectors' time for additional inspections, outreach, and other activities. We found that the software platform that the team uses is outdated, was not designed for their needs, and makes data entry complicated and time-consuming. We also saw that clarifying expectations in some other areas of the work would maximize time spent in the field. We have two just recommendations this finding. First, procure a new software solution allowing for more streamlined data entry and management, and updating procedures around identifying responsible parties. We did have one other recommendation that we made in our preliminary draft, but was fixed during the process related to their internal quality control process. The report has 7 recommendations to improve the city's integrated waste management enforcement program service delivery. I'd like to thank ESD, along with City Attorney's Office, City Manager's Budget Office, as well as staff from Planning, Building, Code Enforcement, and Parks, Recreation, Neighborhood Services. I ask that you accept the report and cross-reference to the September 26th meeting of the City Council, and I'll turn it over to Carrie or Valerie. Carrie, for the administration's response.
Thank you, Carrie Romanow, Director of Environmental Services. We've had the opportunity to thank Joe and his team already. We really appreciate the time they took and the engagement they had with our staff. Certainly, we learned a great deal, and as you can see, we agree with all the recommendations, have implemented many, and have a pretty short timeline to wrap up the rest of it. So thank you for taking the time to help us improve our programs.
All right, thank you. Let's go to public comment.
Jordan Molto.
This report is a good first step. I'm supportive of findings 1 and 2 and recommendations 1, 2, and 5. In addressing these, the team should give higher priority to combat set-outs in bike lanes to protect the lives of bike lane users. This is a gap in the report which doesn't mention bike lanes or trash collisions and downplays set-out issues. A man was killed in May while using a San Jose bike lane when his scooter struck an improperly placed brush pile and the rider was ejected. This may sound like an accident, but our cycling community knows this was a preventable tragedy that represents business as usual, and we need immediate change before more lives are lost. It is a daily occurrence to find bike lanes blocked by brush piles, residential trash bins, and commercial dumpsters. See my written public comments for picture evidence. Non-cyclists might not understand why this is a problem. Brush and bins are often dark and short, and at night might be invisible until collision. When cyclists leave the bike lane, they are at significantly higher risk of vehicle collisions. Unfortunately, many residents, workers, and city staff seem ignorant or indifferent to bike lane regulations and to the safety of cyclists. This safety issue should be a priority 1 issue. Inspectors should be mandated to self-initiate cases, and education and citations should be handed out much more readily. There should be a citywide education campaign regarding bike lanes and set-outs. I also suspect that the city's trash collection trucks are returning containers into bike lanes. If this is true, the collection service is in itself in violation of the California Vehicle Code and city law. I urge that you add additional findings and recommendations that can begin to rectify this dangerous and illegal situation in our bike lanes. I hope that the city can act decisively to prevent any more tragic deaths from occurring due to trash obstacles and in bike lanes. And FYI, I couldn't hear Councilmember Ortiz's microphone on Zoom during the last item. Everyone else's microphones could be heard except for Councilmember Ortiz's. Thank you.
Amon Gormley.
Good afternoon. My name is Eamon Gormley. I'm a San Jose resident. If you want to catch people violating California Vehicle Code Rule 21211, which prohibits the blockage of a bike lane, then you could do a lot worse than come over to Japantown every Monday morning, where every single bike lane is buried under a solid wall of trash cans outside single-family residences, and also buried under piles of yard trimmings, like the pile that killed an e-scooter rider not so long ago, as the previous speaker alluded to. I have approached San Jose Police Department officers about this issue in the past, and their attitude has been that they seem to be poorly informed about what their job is concerning enforcement of this rule. They do not seem to care. I hope that this committee cares a lot more about this problem than the police seem to care. So I would support the recommendation that the enforcement team can be more proactive in enforcing solid waste violations such as improper putouts. And I would just like to echo everything that was said by the previous speaker, by Jordan. And I'm glad to see that the issue is getting some mention in the report, but I'm also a little disappointed that the specific issue of bike lane blockages did not appear more highly on the agenda. I think this is a very specific problem. It's a very serious problem, and I hope this committee will take it seriously. Thank you.
Blair.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks a lot for this item. This sounds like there will be enforcement issues involved, and I wish I could have better understood those things on this item. I know the city of Oakland is dealing with serious issues of trash and blight with trash, as it's called. They want to use ALPRs for that purpose. San Jose is kind of infamous in their past 5 years of how they've used ALPRs for this issue. They've kind of snuck around and dodged better policy practices to experiment with surveillance camera work. And I think you've discovered some good things with it, but it was kind of at a price to be a little bit underhanded about it. That I hope we're learning how to just really be open and clear with our policies with ALPRs and realize we don't need half as many ALPRs to do the same amount of work as that we think we do. And I hope it's those sort of lessons that we can give to Oakland right now. And as on the whole, I think we can offer something pretty decent to Oakland and how to work with these sort of items that they can be pretty impressed in how we work. So good luck in that continued effort. I mean, really, it's time to make clear this, Paul. We have to make important efforts again towards accountability and openness with our tech that will be used for projects like this. And so good luck in those efforts. It's enjoyable. It's good work. It's fun work. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
All right. Thank you. Let's see, do we have any hands? We do not have any hands. Or is your hand up?
I was going to.
Oh, you're going to make a motion. Okay, go ahead.
And first, just thank Joe and the team for the briefing that we had. Most of it has had it last week, so while we may not be asking questions today, it's not that we didn't have questions when we met with you one-on-one, and again, another audit, informative audit report. And with that, I move acceptance of the audit report.
Second.
With a cross-reference to September 26th.
Absolutely, a cross-reference. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to a vote. I think we're missing one vote. Did everyone vote? No, I mean, it's showing only 4 votes on my screen. Is it all 5 on your screen?
Our screens, it's not connecting, so we can't see. I'll end the vote, and then we can, it's unanimous 4.
Okay. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry, my line. On to the next item. We have a report on our report on the long-term trash reduction plan. So we'll start with Carrie.
Thank you. Carrie Romanow, Director, Environmental Services, joined by Rajni Nair, Deputy Director for our Watershed Protection Division. We're happy to present this update to you. One of the perspectives that we've been really thinking a lot more about lately is when we kind of think about the role of the state and the role of city staff. You know, I think our neighbors do a great job complaining about kind of the status of the community, all of that, and then we look at kind of the rules around the stormwater protection in terms of they represent the complaints of the waterways. So balancing kind of the needs of the community and the needs of the waterways is really the approach we're taking as an organization to improve our waterways and also to ensure that we're developing and implementing policies that work both for the people and for the environment to bring both to a better place, ideally at the same time. So with that, I'll turn it over to Rajni to kind of share with you where we are today.
Thank you, Carrie, and good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee and public. My name is Rajni Nair, Deputy Director of Environmental Services. So today, I will provide a brief overview of the stormwater permit regulatory requirements related to specifically trash load reduction and the progress the city has made over the years. And then subsequently, I'll provide a current status update of the city's trash load reduction, and then an overview of the current and future trash controls that will be helping to meet the city's 100% compliance by June 30th, 2025. And then in closing, I'll just conclude with some next steps. So we see trash everywhere, and why does it actually matter? The levels in the environment today are so significant. The state and regional water boards have identified trash as a pollutant that impacts not only our creeks, but the bay and the ocean as well. The Regional Water Board adopted trash reduction requirements for the Bay community in 2009, and the State Water Board followed up with statewide requirements 2015. The city, just like the other 75 permittees in the Bay Area, are required to fulfill or address the trash reductions by 2025, whereas the rest of the state is required to address trash by 2030. So just even go further back in time, just to point out, the Clean Water Act became law in 1972 due to a call to action. As you can see on the photo on the top right is a picture of the Cuyahoga River on fire in Ohio, and it was essentially because of toxic waste discharged. And no pun intended, it was the spark that led to the Clean Water Act in 1973. It did leverage some existing legislation back in the late 1800s and the mid 1900s, which shaped the laws that we have today. Essentially, no discharges other than rainwater can enter into our waterways. And then case in point, the bottom right photo is actually the original groundbreaking photo of the regional wastewater facility that was intended to protect our waterways in South Bay. As mentioned earlier, the introduction of this whole state amendments related to trash was embedded into our stormwater permit back in 2009, and which essentially required every permittee in the Bay Area to standardize a trash assessment methodology, create a baseline as to measure how are we doing. And it was under the same permit, the city submitted its very first long-term trash plan, which detailed a strategy and how we were going to meet compliance that was very specific to each permit term, so that you can see what's called out on the far left side. Under the 2015 permit, it further required permittees to comply with additional requirements shown on the far right. And bottom line, if the 60% reduction target was not met, the permittee was required to update the long-term trash plan, which the city had to do. Overall, progress towards full achievement of these requirements is measured by documentation of areas treated by full trash capture and observations of improvements in the level of trash in the environment. So this slide is really intended to demonstrate the extensive amount of work that city has done to date since 2014. Most critical elements for the long-term trash plan is measured through the implementation of the program, of the top two that's shown on the row 1 and 2, is for full trash capture, which the city has been a leader throughout the state of California in implementing these 4-story buildings, if any of you have seen them, underground, that essentially collects trash through our storm sewer system. And we could not have done this work without the support of Public Works and Department of Transportation, and also of full council for approved funding. The second program is the on-land trash control measures, and this is based on visual assessments that determines the effectiveness of every program. And some examples are adopt a park or adopt a trail or public litter cans. And again, these programs cannot have been completed or achieved without the support of Parks and Recreation Neighborhood Services, Planning, Building, Code Enforcement, Department of Transportation, and of course, Environmental Services. As I shared in the previous slide, we could not achieve a compliance every one of these these milestones that we need to achieve. So we did need to obtain these offsets or credits to ensure that we're remaining in compliance. So these things entailed policy changes, like example, bag bans or polystyrene foam foodware bans. In addition, we did creek cleanups to allow us to obtain credits, and that could not have been done without our partnerships with Keep Coyote Creek Beautiful or South Bay Clean Creeks Coalition or Trash Bunks. And then finally, the direct discharge, which is what council approved back in December and we submitted on city's behalf in January, is essentially to address trash directly deposited in the waterways from encampments residing in there. So currently now under the 2022 stormwater permit, it leverages all the trash requirements that we've had in the past in addition to setting more aggressive. As I said, the Bay Area is required to achieve 100% compliance by 2025. So there's 2 milestones, which we did achieve the 90% in June 30th, 2023, but we do have a long way to go to achieve the 100%. And as you can see on the far right, this is the mathematical side, showing that there is a gap. As I said, these credits are expiring. And so without these offsets, the city really does need to figure out how to achieve that 100%. So here, just to put things in perspective, here's an illustration of that analytical calculation, just to demonstrate the point as to the level of effort that needs to be done. So on the top, as you can see, the black thin line is just demonstrating the city's achievement of the 90% and where we need to go to achieve 100%. Doesn't seem like a lot, but just the effort that needs to get there is quite extensive. Again, the full trash capture and the on-land, those are the two that are very critical in calculating how we achieve 100%. Now, the bottom rows is where you can start to see, how things are transitioning, these offsets and credits, and where we need to ramp up in the middle between June 2024 and 2025 to ensure that we are in compliance by June 30th, 2025. So, so on the bottom right, as you can see, there is that compliance gap that staff is still trying to determine what are the best approaches, but there's a new program that's required, which I'll go into detail, which is called Private Lands Trash Control. So currently, as you all are fully familiar with, the full trash capture program has been the most significant investment the city has done to address trash that's entering into our storm drains. To date, the city has installed about 34, in addition to several inlet screen protectors or bioretentions, green infrastructure to collect trash, which has been about a $27 million investment. And also, it's been strategically placed to minimize the amount of ongoing operations and maintenance that's required. As I shared with you, the on-land programs, these are just a whole host of programs that really count towards this long-term trash plan that various departments are involved with. And it's not enough as to what we need to do to achieve that 100%. So some of the thoughts that that we staff have been really working closely to figure out how to address this gap. The first one, as I mentioned, about the private lands drainage area. This one is, what it means is that any private property that is directly connected to the storm sewer system, and it's not treated by the large trash capture system that we have, or if it's not really considered what we call as a low generation area, which means there's not much visual trash that would be warranting for them to install some kind of device. And so approximately 2,100 parcels are impacted by this mandate. And so that is what we're trying to address right now as to how many of these parcels really are required to install. The other thing that we will be evaluating is the expansion, again, of the large trash capture system or looking at catch basin inserts. So there is some work that we can be done. But yeah, and also green infrastructure as well. So the next steps is first and foremost, we do seek council's approval and your recommendations, T&E as well, to submit to the city's revised long-term trash plan to the water board so that we can submit September 30th, which is the due date. Also, just to be aware that there will be some significant future work, and funding that will be needed to ensure that we meet compliance by that June 30th deadline. And even though these offsets are going to be expiring, particularly the direct discharge, that is still an important program that we will need to continue in order to ensure that the city not only is in compliance, but it's for the Clean Water Act and also to protect our waterways. So with that, I conclude my presentation, so thank you, and I'll pass it to Carrie.
Thank you. With that, we're available for questions.
All right, thank you. Let's see if there's any public comment.
Blair?
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks a lot for this item. I've been learning that, you made some important, you've got some important federal funding dollars from federal agencies with the trash issues, in the past year around the Bay and dealing with these sort of issues. And boy, good luck in that. And that you've had difficulties from this, that it was hurtful. So that's one of those items where good luck and how to really solve that issue with 100% effort, to house and ask every single person, do you need help? Do you need services? I know you tried for that. And that's the 100% effort that I hope can be remembered for the soft retrofit things coming up too as well. So I hope we're working on that stuff, and it was a difficult time. I've also learned that the Trump era decision making was basically deregulating pollution controls around, and so there was a certain urgency in this matter, how you're working with it. So you're in a tight space, and good luck how you're working this out. And I think you're doing it, doing some interesting things. Trash is and handling really well.
Looks like we lost Blair. Going to the next speaker, Paul.
Thank you for that. I'm waiting for open forum. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go back to Blair. It looks like his internet's going in and out because he keeps dropping from the call. Blair?
Hi, thank you so much for allowing me a final 15 seconds. Yeah, so good luck with accountability. Things that you're addressing difficult issues around the Bay, and that San Jose has done some good work with trash, really remarkably good work. And an example for places like Oakland who are asking these sort of questions at this time, and just a reminder of your good work that you do. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
Thank you, and thank you, Carrie and Rajani, for the presentation. We'll start with Councilmember Ortiz.
Thank you, Chair, and Thank you, staff. It's always a pleasure to be able to talk trash here on the dais. Just two quick questions. So how are the current trash reduction plans and programs being evaluated, and what criteria will be used to determine which programs should be expanded or modified to achieve our trash reduction goal?
So currently, what we do is we measure the volume of trash that's being collected and we assess it. And there's a whole mathematical, I didn't share that with you, but there is a computation as to what gives us the 56 or the 17% that you saw in the previous slides. So, but what we're doing, we're currently evaluating the new programs, so we don't really know which programs, but we are exploring all options, looking at the current programs, really maximizing if there's opportunities with the existing programs, if, can be shifted a little bit to address certain areas. So hopefully that answers your question.
I appreciate that. So there is essentially some metric that you're utilizing. That's good. And next question, how will the city engage the public in the decision-making process regarding the trash reduction measures and associated funding needs for that strategy?
I think we might still be having trouble hearing you on the Zoom, council member. So if you could repeat the question to make sure that it gets, and we can maybe, shall we give the council member an alternate mic here? You can take my space if you'd like to be heard. I think that'd be good.
So Councilmember Ortiz here, talking through Councilmember Candelas. So my second question was, how was the city going to engage the public in the decision-making process regarding trash reduction measures and the associated funding needs, because we know that there's going to be more funding needed to reach our goals?
Thank you. We're still working on kind of our thoughts and narrowing down the options. Our first focus is ensuring we have some plans to meet the State Water Resources Control Board expectations, and then working with them to meet their expectations, we can figure out how to engage the community. Our nonprofit partners really are the experts in that community engagement, and so as is typical for ESD, we try and leverage and fund them to do the work where they have really strong partnerships and connections, and they are oftentimes a lot more effective dollar for dollar than city staff.
No, that's great. It's good to know you're going to be utilizing like CBOs and nonprofit partners. It's important we also have evaluation and metrics put in place to measure their effectiveness as well. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And they do give us quarterly or annual reports based on the funding mechanism that we use. And it really helps inform our decisions, but it also helps us more closely collaborate with the nonprofits and to see where their challenges are. So yeah, we're very appreciative for them, and they're making a huge difference.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Candelas.
All right, thank you, Chair. My comments are going to be brief. I know there's a lot of work that needs to be done with regards to our new stormwater permit, and specifically with the strategies around how we're going to be funding some of these heavy lifts. I recognize that the bar has been set higher. I think this is an opportunity for us to be able to lean in to my colleague's point on our community, specifically whether it's leaning in on the beautification efforts of reducing the trash loads that go into our creeks and waterways by partnering with the agencies like Valley Water, like Caltrans, and being able to lean in. I think that's a critical component to our permit, and as long as we show, you look at slide 10, we have well over 20 trash control measures in place, whether it's adopting a park, encampment management programs, or street sweeping or litter enforcement. I think we are doing what we can do as a city, given the constraints that we have, like every other city in our region. But I think that's important, and so I want to iterate the importance of partnerships, specifically with how we approach our permit and how we make that argument to the Regional Water Quality Control Board, that we are doing what we can given the high bar that has been set by those entities requesting that of us.
Yeah, thank you. The state has been very clear that they're measuring us on results, and that we need to do a lot more. And so we're working with all of those partners because they are shared objectives that we all have to improve the environment. But the bar is definitely higher, and I don't know how we're going to fund it yet, but I know that the state is requiring us to do it.
No, definitely, and I know, I preface this saying there's a lot of work to do, and I know this is. I look forward to that report coming to us in October, based on what staff identifies based on information. So, anyways, that being said, I'll move staff recommendation for this item.
And the motion includes a cross-reference to the September 19th council meeting.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Just a question. I'm trying to understand this baseline percentage. The baseline is not based on time, but every year how much we reduce from the stream. Is that what that number means?
It's actually what's focused on land. So that baseline every year gets assessed in the public right-of-way as to what we need to do, to reduce the trash. So in 2009, there were defined like what's very high, moderate, low. And fortunately, the city is fairly clean streets, but the large trash capture devices were installed to really be strategic to address the very high. That's why we were able to capture a lot of trash in those regions through these large devices. But now that we kind of started with the hardest. Now we have to capture all the very, the print, and the peripherals. So to Councilmember Candelas' point, these are opportunities where we can partner with Caltrans or things like that if there's some cost benefits, So every year we're measuring against that 2009.
So there was a baseline amount of how much trash they think would be the baseline, and that was 2009 number.
That was
and so that 80% reduction, 60% and 80% is based on reducing this year's stream from the 2009 baseline number.
Exactly.
But it's not a reduction, it's not an increase, an improvement of reduction. It's how much we're going from the total that's predicted to be on the streets.
With an end goal of zero trash in the creeks. So certainly progress along the way, but then in 2025, there needs to be no trash in the creek, no visible trash in the creeks.
Okay. Thank you. But we don't know, for example, when we're collecting what volume we're collecting, that there might not be a higher percentage, a higher number on the streets to start with, right? Because we're only using a 2009 baseline number.
We do visual assessments every year of the city.
Thank you. And I look forward. I've said this multiple times, and it's my fault for our office not following up. But I look forward to getting that storm capture tour to see the system. I've been wanting to do that for a while, so I hope we can do that. Let's move to a vote on this item. All right. The motion carries 5-0. That brings us to open forum.
Jordan?
Hi, Jordan Moldow, District 3. Last week, the Planning Department held a community meeting about a proposed rezoning of portions of Guadalupe Gardens along Coleman and Heading to allow for commercial development. The driver of this project is entirely external to the city. The FAA claims that the city is in violation of the grant that was used to purchase the land, and they expect the land to be, quote, productive and generating revenue to fund FAA operations. This seems very backwards to me, and I hope that our environment committees and departments can push back on the FAA. Air travel is a significant contributor to climate change. The current open space in the gardens helps mitigate climate change, so this seems like the most productive use of the land possible. If the land were to be redeveloped, I'd much rather see it be developed for nonprofits that work for mitigating climate change. For example, our city forest, which recently received a commendation from the city council, has a similar plot of land in this area, and they put it to very productive use as a nursery. There are also great gardens and nurseries elsewhere in the Guadalupe Gardens, as well as the nearby Garden to Table, on the other side of Highway 87. If the FAA forces a land use change, I think it would be great if these groups or groups like them are able to develop these lands for purposes that benefit the environment. To be clear, I am not against commercial infill. Infill is another good tool for not creating worse environment problems when the only other alternative is to destroy forests and other natural lands. But in this case, the rezoning and infill is entirely based off of FAA rent seeking and not based off of any demonstrated need. I hope that our elected officials in the city might decide to push back against the FAA and reach out to our local Congress members if necessary. Thank you.
Blair?
Hi, Blair Beekman. Sorry for my Zoom troubles today. I hope my words could have been heard. They meant a lot to myself being able to say them. To clarify some words from myself about what's going on in with Oakland issues right now, I mean, they really have to learn to practice that minimal use of ALPRs can do the same amount as a plethora. And actually, San Jose needs to learn those lessons as well. And I think that's about all needs to be said about that subject. Good luck on how minimal use practices really can do as much as a plethora. And that good luck in how city government staff can renew their interest in making the tech in San Jose a community process. And my favorite word these days, accessible, an accessible process. With that said, I guess to try to offer a few words about this day of September 11th, you know, it's just, I'm not going to say too much today. I want to work on a speech that I want to start talking about. I think we have some very deep personal feelings about what actually happened on the day of 9/11 that we don't know how to express to ourselves more openly, that I would like to learn to speak to more openly. Not to be shocking about it, but just to create a way so it can feel safer to have those conversations in open public spaces. And it's important. We really have to learn to heal the day of 9/11 and the concepts of war they keep dumping on us. And I think if we understand what happened on that day better, a healing process can really begin to basically end future wars. And we don't have to go to war so easily in the future. It's important we learn that. And so good luck in how we think about this day and our future towards peace as our choices, and how we make decisions at the local level to not go think of war all the time, but concepts of.
Paul?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. The city of San Jose called the police on me twice. In the last week, I was arrested in both the California room. You have snitches in the California room. What the city has done is made certain that I do not have access to research documents because the power of my advocacy is rooted in those documents. And nobody in the city is as good at doing what I do than myself. I was researching Sonny Madrid, and I started asking documents from Sonny Madrid and Fred Ross. And I was accosted, I was arrested by 8 officers. Now, 4 days before that, the city of San Jose, again, Nora Freeman, Lee Wilcox specifically, had me arrested in front of the 1075 East Santa Clara Street, the mental health building, at a county government meeting. The officer, and I give my straight up props to Officer Gutierrez. He is an exemplary example of a good officer, and we need more like him, because what he did is he de-escalated the situation. But that was not the intention of the city. He saw it for what it was, that the city is leveraging its power with the police department and sending them after me. Now, you have declared me a public enemy of the state, and there's certain officers in your department that aren't buying it, and they know that it's false. As soon as I quoted what the law was with respect to that particular arrest, Officer Gutierrez stood in front of me and stated, "Mr. Soto, you are 100% correct. Could you please stand up so I can take those handcuffs off you?" This is what a good officer does. And you know what? You're going to have the lawsuit, and I'm going to make sure that I file it so you're on notice, Nora Freeman and Lee Wilcox.
Back to the committee.
All right, thank you. We are adjourned.